Good afternoon. Today is September 2nd and I am 26 days away from starting a big trip to South America. My intention is to drive from here, Kamloops, British Columbia, right down to the southern tip of South America and then come back. I should be gone about 6 months. Now this isn't my first try, this is my third try. The first time I tried, I got to Panama and got turned around by a family emergency and had to fly home. 14 months later, I went back and picked up my bike and rode it home. But in between that, we had decided to make a second attempt and we had booked our bikes to be shipped down to South America. Then COVID hit and that trip never even got started. We never turned a wheel. So this is my third attempt to go to South America. I'm traveling with another guy named Steve Dietrich, and we will be leaving on September 26th, heading down to South America. A lot of people have asked how I met my traveling partner, Steve Dietrich. And that's a bit of a long, interesting story, but about 4 years ago, Suzanne and I were going for a ride on our touring bikes, one of the first rides of the year, from here down to Merritt, where we stopped at the A&W and had a root beer, which is unusual. Usually we would stop at the pub and have a beer and a sandwich, but that day we decided to stop at the A&W and have a root beer. And there was a couple of dual sport bikes outside of the A&W, and after we finished our root beer, I was just admiring one of the bikes, and the owner of the bike came up and says, how you doing? And started talking to me, and he noticed a sticker on the back of my helmet that said retired firefighter. And he happened to be a retired RCMP. And so we chatted some more, and he said, you got any big trip plan? And I said, yeah, I think this fall, around October, I'm going to be heading south to possibly South America. He said, oh, that's interesting. He says, on October 11th, there's a group of us going down the Baja. He said, you should consider joining us. And he gave me a link to his Facebook page that he had set up for that. And I followed that along for the rest of the summer. And I thought, yeah, that might work. They were going to meet on October 11th in San Isidro, and I was leaving here on October 1st. So that would give me 11 days to get down there, which is plenty of time. But October 1st rolls around and it's raining, heavy, heavy rain. I'm not going to start my trip like this. So I said, I'll go tomorrow. So October 2nd, I get up in the morning. There's 3 inches of snow on the ground and it's still snowing. I said, well, I'm not leaving today either. So postponed it again. Next day rolls around, I get up. It's not snowing, but there's still snow on the ground. But the roads were clear. So I checked the road reports and found out that there was, the roads were all clear from here down to Ushuaia, which is where I was going to spend my first night. So I jumped on my bike and took off, and the roads were dry, but there was snow on the sides of the roads, and it was quite cool. And I had my heated grips on, long johns, my heated vest, and about 5 layers, and my full face helmet, and I was fine. Got down to, I actually stayed in Norville, just across the line at my aunt's place, spent the night there. And then over to Seattle the next night, and then from Seattle down the Oregon coast, and from there all the way down to San Isidro. I had 8 days to get down there, so it was quite a leisurely trip. And I met this group, Douglas McLaughlin's group of people. There was about 8 or 9 of us. I think there was 9 of us that took off and went down the Baja. After I connected with Doug, and he found out that I was traveling south, he said, Dunk, you've got to connect with this guy named Steve Dietrich. I said, why is that? He says, well, he's doing the same thing you are. After the trip, he's taken off south down to Costa Rica, and you're going down to South America, so you guys should connect and ride together. I said, yeah, well, that's a possibility. So I got a hold of Steve and talked to him on the phone and a few emails back and forth, and we decided it could be a possibility, but maybe we should meet first. You know, riding with somebody for 5 or 6 weeks, if you don't get along, it's going to be a long, long trip. So he agreed to come up. He was going hunting in the Kootenays anyway, so we swung up through Kamloops, and we went and had breakfast together and chit-chatted, and found out that we had a lot in common, and we're about the same age. He was an electrician. I was a firefighter with a construction background, so we had that in common. He was into real estate dealings, and I was doing the same thing, so we had a lot to talk about with that. And he was a character and seemed easy enough to get along with. And I'm a bit of a character, and I'm pretty laid back and easy to get along with. So we decided that, yeah, it could probably work. So off we went. He went his way, I went my way, and we were going to meet in San Ysidro. But a couple of days before we were leaving for that trip, I got a message from him saying, Dunk, I can't go down to the Baja. I said, why? He says, my dad just died. And so we have to deal with that. He says, I don't know what's going to happen. I said, okay, well, whatever. If I have to ride by myself, I will. I never really expected him to make the trip or any part of the trip. But again, down into the Baja, I met the group, Douglas McLaughlin's group, and we headed down into the Baja and rode for about 5 or 6 days. And then I get this message from Steve. He said, Dunk, where you at? I says, well, I'm in the Baja right now, down at the tip of the Baja. He says, when are you going to cross over to Topolobampo? I said, I'll probably cross over in about 3 or 4 days. He says, good, I'll meet you there. I said, what? Where are you? He says, I'm at home in Courtenay. Are you going to get from there all the way to Topolobampo in 4 days? He says, yep. I said, okay. But in the back of my mind, I said, there's no way he's going to get down there in 4 days. But sure enough, 4 days later, I get a message from him. He says, I'm here in Topolobampo. I've got a hotel. I'll see you when you get over here. I said, what? That was amazing. But he put his bike in the back of his pickup, drove from there to Reno, left his pickup at a buddy's place in Reno, jumped on his bike, and rode from Reno down to the Topolobampo in 2 days. It was just fabulous. Get across over to Topolobampo, 11 o'clock at night. He's there. He's got a room for us. A couple of beers, chatted for a bit, hit the sack, and got up the next day. And for the next 5 weeks, we rode together all the way from there right down to the border of Nicaragua and Costa Rica, where his bike got confiscated because he didn't have his original registration. Somewhere in the paper shuffle, probably at the Nicaraguan border that we just left, he got handed back a copy of my registration instead of his original copy of registration, and they wouldn't let him through the border. And they confiscated his bike until he got the original sent down to him from British Columbia here, which took about 2 weeks. So at that point, he had to take the bus down to San Jose, and then I continued on riding right to Panama, where my trip ended. That part of the trip anyway. My trip ended there because I got a call from home saying there's a family emergency and I had to head back home. I left my bike in Panama, hoping to get it shipped home, but I couldn't arrange that. I couldn't make it happen while I was there. So I flew home, tried to arrange the shipping from here with shipping companies and cargo companies, and nobody could make it happen. So my bike sat in Panama for the next 14 months until I went down there and picked it up. Anyways, that's a whole other story, but that's a story of how Steve and I met, and we've been in contact ever since. I've been down there to visit him. He's been there up to visit me. We've done a couple of rides together, and it's just been fabulous. So we're really looking forward to getting together again and heading as far south as we can get, hopefully all the way to Ushuaia and back. So I know it's hard to be with the same person for 6 months at a time, but I wouldn't pick anybody else other than Steve to do this with. So it's going to work out good.